So, the biggest movie of the year, and in entire truth I was utterly impressed. I expected typical Sony crap the closer we got to the release, but it actually wasn't. And I guess we should pull it out of the bag straight away, it's what everyone wants to talk about. Tobey and Andrew are fucking back. I don't believe it. And it's fucking great to see. The moment they come back, it's executed mostly really well. I have a tiny little issue with it, but we can get into that in a little bit. But they treat the characters with respect, and they feel like continuations of their respective franchises. Honestly, the villains were enough to be fan service, you know. We have these iconic villains, mainly Doc Ock and Green Goblin. They are genuinely iconic, and I do like the others. Electro, I wasn't too fond of coming back. And the villains were enough to be fan service in themselves, really. So this was just incredible. And honestly, in particular with Andrew, I feel like this movie adds to the Amazing Spider-Man universe. Hearing about the path he went on after Gwen's death, that whole process, I mean, I don't think we would have truly got it, the path that franchise was going down. But if Mark Webb was able to hold it properly, I think that would have been a great path we went on. The same as what I mentioned in my recent The Amazing Spider-Man video. Mark Webb's vision that peeks through every now and then through those two films, you can see it's a great vision. It would have been rivaling the Raimi franchise if he got to do that. But hearing what happened and taking that from Andrew in this movie really adds. And Tobey just growing up, he comes back still the nerdy guy, and he has a beautiful moment with Doc Ock where he reunites. Doc Ock's like, oh, you're all grown up, and it's and between Tom, Andrew and Tobey and each of them individually, the interactions are great, and this was fan service, of course it is. You're bringing two beloved actors as Spider-Man back, but it's fan service done right. They don't show up until for the third act, and they show up and are important to Tom's story. They get a bit of fanfare, but it's not in your face. I think it's done really well, and also you have to commend the acting. Andrew Garfield, I'm so glad that he gets some right done by him. He was great in his two movies anyway, and he fits right back in, and so does Tobey Maguire. He fits right back in this suit, buy him instantly, and they carry on their personas perfectly as well, and they're actually written for the most part really well as well. It's great to have them back, really well executed, and yeah, what can I say? You know, I have one real flaw with it, which I will get into, but for the most part. And I'm sorry I'm just nerding out at this, but I don't think you can blame me. I think everyone is. It's just incredible. It's surreal to have them back. Seeing Andrew Garfield crack Tobey Maguire's back it's amazing. Tobey Maguire is great. Do not get me wrong. Oh my god, and I totally freaked out when he showed up. And Tom Holland, this is best performance I've ever seen. But Andrew Garfield just oozes this charisma and carries such a punch that could even carry its own movie. And I think he just kind of seals the show for me. It's great to have them back, and I'll be watching this film a few times. But all the same can be said with the villains, because many villains. Again, fan service, but it works well. In service of Tom's story, they never lose track. This is Tom's movie. It's my favourite homecoming movie out of this trilogy, and up there with the MCU favourites. I'm gonna be honest. Maybe that's a hot take, I don't know. But it's up there for me. I really fucking liked this movie. I thought it was a great time. Tom trying to help the villains, we see how he's grown from the past event, but through that he gets put through the fucking ringer. Aunt May dies. That was my first thought in the teaser trailer, and then we got the second trailer and it threw me off, because we see like the aftermath of an explosion and we see May touching Peter's face. So it threw me off. So when it happened, shit. And it was really emotional. It raises a question, what was Uncle Ben's role in Peter becoming Spider-Man? I know we're getting a TV show, is it? Or a TV animated show? Peter Parker when he was younger in the MCU. I guess we'll see that then, I hope. But I guess that solidifies that this Homecoming trilogy is a new origin story for Spider-Man. And I'm okay with it. I actually feel like it works. The movie on the whole is much more emotional than I actually could have expected. It is the best movie in the Homecoming trilogy by a long way, I'd say, actually. And it's the final step in Tom's Spider-Man origins. Yeah, he kind of earned the Spider-Man title in Homecoming, I can't deny that. He hadn't fully grown into that until this movie. He hadn't learned the cost of Spider-Man, the importance of Spider-Man until this movie. And everything that happens to him just adds and makes a great character piece for Tom Holland, which I think, while I enjoyed the work they did, this was necessary. And it fixed it progressed, moving past the flaws I did have in the past two. And just as with Andrew and Toby, the villains were treated with respect. No ground was actually stomped on. They remembered that these villains, in particular the Raimi ones, but even the other two to an extent, they were tragedies. They're not bad guys. You know, they're not bad people. The closest to a bad person we have is Norman Osborn, but even then he was never his goal to be the Goblin. Sandman's never really a bad guy. He becomes a threat because he just wants to get home. They're not outright antagonists, and this film knows that and respects that. There's one thing that I think people will pick up on. What does it mean, them being sent back in their fixed state? From Loki, I'm gonna take that as branching off into a new timeline. A Raimi-verse version 2 and whatnot, where Doc Ock lives on, where Norman comes back and treats his son with respect. And the same with the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Maybe it's wishful thinking, maybe it was just overlooked by the filmmakers, I don't know, but that's just how I'm taking it. Or maybe I missed something and I'm wrong and there's a better way, I don't know. Tom Holland deserves a special shout. He has a lot to do. I said Andrew and Toby are great, and you expected nothing less if you were confident they were going to be in this movie. But Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe still got it. Fucking hell, they're so good. And a special shout to Willem Dafoe as well. He does a lot, nails it in every scene. Doctor Strange and Peter's relationship was interesting to explore. Seeing how that descended into the mirror dimension fight was great. The handling of his secret identity reveal was mostly good, a brief kind of pushover in one scene, but I can't forgive it because the actual impact of people knowing stays around. Like the legal side of it was pushed away briefly, but the actual impact is the main thing that I felt was important, and it handles that well in my opinion. And it all leads to the end of the movie where Peter has to allow everyone to forget who he is. Back to square one after fucking up and losing his aunt forever, and then having to lose everyone in a whole different way. And it's upsetting at the end seeing MJ clueless and a scene at May's grave where Happy doesn't know him. It's mature and not ruined by the fucking MCU jokes. This is what the MCU needs more of, more maturity, I think. It almost got there with Shang-Chi, but the Marvel problem kicks in again, and there are parts in here, I'll get to that. But there is another reason why I can let slide the pushover of the legal stuff, because it gets pushed aside by Charlie fucking Cox as Matt Murdock, baby. It's a great movie. It's a great movie. He's back. Yeah, it's just a cameo, but that's all this film has time for, and it's a great cameo, and it works. And Charlie Cox has still got it, and I never had any doubt. He was actually the one I was least confident about being in the film, and I mean, they all caught me off guard from where they took place, but I remember seeing a set photo leak, and I thought it looked really fake. And then it's in the movie, so yeah, I guess I'm just a bit thick, but God, I'm so glad he's back. And Wilson Fisk revealed back in Hawkeye as well. Spoilers for Hawkeye. Sorry, but you should be watching it because Hawkeye's pretty good actually. Oh! If you know me, you know how much I love Daredevil. I've never spoken about it overly on this channel, and because I don't know how to, because it's so important, near enough to perfect for me. It's my favourite superhero media. It's my favourite piece of television probably. I think honestly all superhero films today should aspire to be Daredevil. Is that a hot take? Maybe. I think it's fucking incredible. It's better than many films I've seen, better than almost every superhero film I've seen, and so you have to imagine my excitement, because I was actually I'm actually still in distress that it got cancelled, and I'm scared for what they do with these characters because they're so mature. I need them to keep telling their stories in the mature way, but again, this will be mentioned in a few minutes. But back to this movie specifically, I was impressed and surprised by this movie pulling off this impossible task and managing to make it, honestly, up there in my favourite MCU films. In no way should this have been as good as it was. It should have been an absolute dumpster fire, and I'm sure for some people it was. And I hope you all enjoyed it. Obviously, I wish I could enjoy every movie, but I don't, because films like The Rise of Skywalker exist.
Oh, please don't.
And throughout the film, there was a few gut punches. Andrew's Peter saving MJ and his reaction, fucking incredible. Where they're talking about Uncle Ben after Myers died, and Toby's reaction to hearing great power with great responsibility, and Andrew talking about losing Gwen. Oh, actually, I did tear up. But Peter dealing with May's death and that rage, and then making the difficult decision to let everyone he loves forget about him. That's great. That's great character work. I'm really impressed by that, actually. But it's not a perfect movie by some way, and I hate to say it, but I wasn't surprised by what I didn't like. And I think, to say it simply, it is the Marvel problem, and I think it's starting to get more apparent. And I'm actually reaching my limit with the MCU. It is doing what it can right now to keep me on board with bringing back Daredevil and Tobey and Andrew, although I don't know if they'll come back for anything, but they're obviously setting something up with Daredevil and Kingpin and hopefully the Netflix world. But the Marvel problem is why I'm scared as well as excited for Daredevil's return. And if they mess Daredevil up with the Marvel problem, that'll probably be my breaking point. And after this video, I've decided I'm going to make a video on the Marvel problem, and that's the only way I can describe it right now. And I'm going to take a guess and say it's more probably up there at Disney's fault, and I'm going to try and stick to specifically the problems within this movie, but the CGI and comedy is my Marvel problem. And honestly, there were some weird decisions from Jon Watts' filmmaking throughout this movie. The Marvel stuff, stop overusing CG fucking I. It is so annoying, and there are so many CGI shots across the entire MCU that look great, and including this movie, but there are also so many that are cheap and unnecessary. Take your time. I can only assume a big part is because it's easier to use CGI, and that's lazy. That's what I mean about Daredevil. Daredevil was not lazy. Daredevil took its time with everything, and that's why it's basically a perfect show for me. So I can only assume it's because of the Marvel machine. Like, the early MCU films had, look how good the Iron Man suits. They look better, they get worse as they go on. It's like the Spider-Man suits, every single one of them gets overdone with CGI. There are some great shots where it's just CGI touch-ups, they work entirely. But look at the Falcon and the Winter Soldier suit. Those are just CGI touch-ups, and it looks great. And there are some moments in this movie, in particular with the final act, well, I wanted to just punch my seat, like, because it's so simple to just not use the CGI, and they just do it anyway. Sorry. And then the comedy. So I think this is a lot of people's main problem with Marvel movies right now. Honestly, the Spider-Man movies have been some of the better ones at balancing it, and this film actually does balance it well for the most part. Final act is the biggest culprit of this that I've seen in a bit, honestly. Shang-Chi was bad with a character backstory, but here, the final act is mostly great. You know, the character work is what makes it so amazing, and also there are moments like really cool fucking sequences with the three Spider-Men. There's a moment where they jump off all together and they use each other to swing off, and we hear Tobey's and Andrew's screams, and oh my god, I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about it. I don't know if you can see that, but holy shit. There's a lack of intensity, and it's frustrating because it's as if someone from up above is being like, no, not enough jokes. Let's put one in there, you know, put one in there. You know, I've seen it for MJ and Ned, you know, put that in, you know, have them having a laugh. They're not scared of the giant lizard running towards them. It's funny. Shut up. A real lack of intensity that gets frustrating at times because there are major stakes in this movie. No one's reviews are going to do anything because these films are making so much money, and this is a great movie, so I can't be mad at this one for making the amount it's going to make. I mean, it gets really serious when Goblin comes back, and that's great. That's fucking great. When Tobey stops him, one of the best scenes in the movie. And it gets really intense when he ends up kind of knocking MJ off and tries to save her. Yeah, it's all, yeah. It's actually something I really liked in this movie, what they did with Andrew and Tobey, with giving them almost second chances with their mistakes. Andrew obviously saving MJ, but more subtle one I think was when Tobey saved Tom from killing his aunt's killer, or obviously in Tobey's case his uncle, letting Norman die. And obviously that led to the split between Peter and Harry, you know, so great moments. But otherwise, other than that intensity and a few other moments, like the fight where Aunt May dies, that's pretty intense and a great fight. It's as if Marvel really struggle to have overly long serious moments. And it's serious, and I don't have a problem with comedy. A lot of the Marvel comedy is really funny actually. But it's getting to the point, especially in this recent phase. I mean, with exceptions of Thor Ragnarok, which is a full-blown comedy, and most of it works as well. They ended the bridge fight with Doc Ock in a comedic way, and it doesn't detriment the character, thank God. But it's just like, this was really intense before, why? And the quips were working. Like, Marvel don't know, and I don't think care, or Disney, where their quips go. They just don't want it to get too serious, I guess. and it's utterly frustrating. Like I said, there's random breaks in the final act, but otherwise, thankfully, it was balanced really well. And with Jon Watts, just don't think he films his movies in an overly engaging way. I don't know if that'll make any sense, but there are just some odd decisions with, like, Toby. We get no full presenting shot of him in his suit. Like, we see him in his suit and stuff, but, like, we get a pretty good shot of Andrew coming through. But where's Toby's, you know? And it's just not filmed in an overly engaging way. My camera's just turned off. Hold on, guys. Okay, we're back after talking for 25 minutes, and my camera losing recording space. So yeah, with Jon Watts' filming, there were certain shots that felt like they needed more impact, and that just wasn't given. I mean, Doc Ock had a great one, obviously. We all saw in the trailer. But yet, the Goblin, I mean, when he comes in, which, by the way, I'm kind of mad we didn't get to see much of the Goblin in the suit. We got to see Willem Dafoe acting his absolute chops off, so I can forgive that. Like, especially the Toby thing, I think is the main one that kind of got to me. Andrew's being better. I only say that because we get to see him in his full suit, and it is great, and also, when he unmasks and the charisma, it all makes up for it, kind of, in my opinion. But then, well, obviously, Toby does bring charisma. Toby brings everything, and he's amazing, obviously. But the way it's filmed, it just happens, they step through a portal, and it's not impactful. The cinema made it impactful. The crowd, that's disappointing. Captain America had a better entrance after his absence for 2 movies. How long has it been for the others? I just feel like Jon Watts doesn't film his films in an overly engaging way, and it's a bit weird, I guess. I don't know. Some shots just feel like they're shot. Oh, I don't want to say wrong because it's subjective, and you may love the way, the subtleness kind of that they came in. But the stature, especially of Toby being the person, like, there'd be no MCU without his Spider-Man, you know? Which also, wait, Spider-Man's the first MCU movie. Holy shit, I need to change the order of my Blu-ray. Maybe that's just me, but I just think sometimes I'm just a bit like, oh, is that really? But there's also some mesmerizing stuff in this film. Like I said, the Doctor Strange sequence and a lot of the final battle is enjoyable, and there is some really cool shots throughout, don't get me wrong. Also, by the way, can I just say I love the integrated suit. I do wish it was practical, although granted, that's one of the best parts of CGI. Like in the trailers, I thought it was more of an actual suit, and you can't really tell that the gold spider is CGI, and I think that's really well done, actually. But there are just some egregious moments in the final act, and there are other moments before, but I'm grateful they seem to tone down on completely overdoing the Spider-Man suits in CGI. The Iron Spider's never looked great, design or CGI wise. The Far From Home, the upgraded suit, they seem to tone down and just tweak it, like they did with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier suit in this movie, for most of it, and I appreciate that, because it's a great suit and it does look great. Also, I would have loved to hear some of the blasts of the Spider-Man themes, like the James Horner's or Hans Zimmer's Andrew Garfield one, and a massive blast of Danny Elfman's one. I would have loved. That's not something that overly affects it. It keeps the idea of it being Tom's movie very much sustained, and we do hear hints of previous scores throughout, which I do appreciate. I remember when Doc Ock came up, and we heard his like subtle theme when we saw his face. I got goosebumps. I genuinely have goosebumps talking about this movie. That's how much I enjoyed it, honestly. And obviously nostalgia will play a factor, but nonetheless, the music is more of just a pipe dream. But I think I'm starting to get a Marvel problem, and that's quite scary. It ruined WandaVision for me, and I do like WandaVision, but especially the end, the Marvel problem fucked it up. And it was apparent in Shang-Chi. That whole talk is, well, I could fill a whole video, and I will do one at some point soon, probably in the new year. This is likely to be this will be my last video. This movie, though, it's really great. It's probably my 5th favourite after the Raimi trilogy and Into the Spider-Verse. But I do potentially prefer it to Spider-Man 3. I'm not sure. I'm a bit on the fence. And the fan service is done right. I just can't believe it. It's surreal to me that we got this. I genuinely just can't. Even the villains, you know, like, it's insane to me. I've seen it twice already. I can't wait to see it again. They handled Tom perfectly, his character, and like I say, I can't praise him enough for his acting chops, and I can't wait till they start talking about it publicly and how his experience with Toby and Andrew, because obviously we know how much of a fan he is himself. Andrew and Toby are fucking glorious, and the villains are just as respected as the Spider-Men, and they're given really good motivations as well, and the actual story of seeing Peter help them. It's a really compelling and fun story to watch. Spider-Man No Way Home actually managed to deliver the best part of its runtime anyway, with a great Spider-Verse third act that was simply iconic. It will be, and fucking amazing, and I can't complain other than the CGI and the comedy in some moments. I just can't explain how incredible it was to have 3 Spider-Men, 3 that I do care about on screen, and the chemistry, and it was great. It was great, and my soul pretty much left my body when Charlie Cox showed up at the start of the movie. And thank God this movie didn't buckle too much under the weight. There are moments, definitely, but there is a lot to get through, and it does brush past some stuff, but it mostly balances things surprisingly well, and it's just a pretty fucking good movie for me, and more than a great end to the trilogy. There are lows in this movie, not like Amazing Spider-Man 2 Goblin lows, but the highs are so high, and the lows aren't low enough to completely ruin my experience, which is the main thing. I really enjoyed this movie. It's not a perfect movie. It's definitely the best of the Homecoming trilogy, and more than a great end to this trilogy, in my opinion, and an absolute celebration of the Spider-Man character, and it's great to see. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of Spider-Man No Way Home in the comments below, and take care.
Peter, you're struggling to have everything you want, while the world tries to make you choose.
This is all my fault. I can't save everyone.